Have you ever felt that you are only called upon when someone else needs something from you, as if your entire identity is tied to your function? Have you ever wondered if you stopped being productive or stopped helping others, would you still be considered worthy of the love and care you receive? We live in a modern era where being useful is worshipped like a religion, and we have become its most exhausted and burnt-out followers every day. Our value is often measured by our output, our efficiency, and how much we can contribute to the machines of society without ever pausing for air. But what if we looked at existence differently? Imagine a place where your presence alone is enough. Far away from the demands of the modern world, there is a profound truth hidden in the stillness of nature, a truth that we have long forgotten in our race to be more and do more. The trees do not struggle to be worthy. They simply grow. They do not calculate their value based on the oxygen they provide or the shade. You have inherent value simply because you are here, breathing and existing in this moment, regardless of how much you have achieved or produced today. Let us step into a story of an ancient forest, where the lessons of the useless and the useful reveal the true nature of our own worth. In an ancient and bountiful forest, the fruit-bearing trees were the stars of the land, always boasting about their incredible productivity and their sweet, sugary yields. The apple tree was particularly proud, showing off its bright red ornaments to every creature that passed by, measuring its worth by the sweetness it offered. Nearby, the peach tree preened in the sunlight, convinced that its fragrance and delicate skin made it the most valuable member of the entire woodland community. They judged one another by the quantity of fruit they could produce each season, believing that to be good was synonymous with being useful to others. In this world of constant giving, value was a tangible thing you could touch, taste, and trade, leaving no room for those who could not produce. The forest was loud with the sounds of insects and birds drawn to the sugar, a bustling marketplace of utility where every tree had a job. Any plant that failed to bear fruit or provide a direct benefit was seen as a failure, a drain on the soil's precious and limited nutrients. They competed for space and sunlight, desperate to prove they were the most useful, often growing so fast that their own structures became weak and thin. The pressure to perform was constant, as if the very right to stand in the earth depended on the weight of the harvest they carried each year. They had forgotten how to just be trees, focusing instead on being fruit makers, losing their connection to the deep, silent rhythms of the ancient earth itself. But in the shadows of these busy producers lived a mystery, a giant that did not follow the rules of the orchard's frantic and demanding economy. In the furthest corner of the grand forest stood a giant tree, so old that the others had forgotten when it first broke through the soil. It bore no fruit. It produced no flowers. It was a twisted monument of gray wood and deep green leaves, standing silent while the others boasted. The apple tree and the peach tree whispered about it, calling it the useless one, wondering why it was allowed to take up so much space. They saw only what it lacked, failing to see the strength in its silence or the depth of the roots that held the very ground together. The giant did not try to argue. It did not try to force a single blossom or grow a single berry to prove its worth to them. It simply existed. It took in the rain, it drank the sun, and it grew its canopy wider and wider, year after long and silent year. While the other trees spent their energy outward, the giant spent its life force building an internal fortress of wood and a deep connection to gravity. To the busy and the useful, it looked like stagnation, but to the earth, it was a masterpiece of presence, a soul that required no justification. It accepted the label of useless with a quiet dignity, knowing that its purpose was not to be consumed, but to simply be a witness. It held the silence of the forest within its rings, a living library of every season, every rain, and every quiet moment the others had missed. It was the anchor of the woods, a still point in a turning world, waiting for the time when the forest would need something more than sweetness. Then, the sky changed. A darkness unlike any other swept over the horizon, bringing with it a wind that tasted of iron and cold, deep winter. The greatest storm in a century arrived without warning. The air screamed as the wind tore through the leaves, demanding a toll from every living thing. The useful trees, once so proud of their heavy yields, were now in mortal danger. Their very fruit became a burden they could no longer carry. The weight of their productivity made them fragile. They were too top-heavy to withstand the pressure, and their shallow roots began to fail them now. Apples were quashed into the dirt, and peach blossoms were shredded by the rain. Everything they had worked for was being destroyed by the very air. But the useless giant stood firm, because it had never spent its energy on fruit. Its core was solid, and its roots were anchored in the bedrock. It did not break. It did not bend. It became a wall of wood, a shield that took the brunt of the storm's fury without a sound. In the chaos, the creatures of the forest didn't run to the fruit trees for help. They ran to the giant. They sought the shelter of the useless. It offered a place to live, a place to breathe, and a sanctuary where the storm could not reach. It was the only safety in the world. Its value was no longer hidden. It wasn't something you could eat, but it was something you could survive within. It was the gift of presence. As the wind died down, the forest remained transformed. The survivors looked up at the ancient wood that had saved them all from the great destruction. When the rain finally stopped and new light bathed the forest, the air was clean, and the silence that followed was heavy with a new understanding. The fruit trees stood battered and broken, their branches empty and their pride gone. They looked toward the giant with eyes filled with a quiet awe. They realized that the tree they had mocked for being useless was the only reason any of them were still standing in the earth today. There are values that cannot be weighed on a scale or sold in a market. There are strengths that only reveal themselves when the world falls apart. The uselessness of the giant tree was actually a form of deep preparation. It had spent its life building what truly mattered, stability and depth. Because it did not exhaust itself for the approval of others, it had the reserves to be a savior for those who had given everything away. We often forget that being useful can be a trap that leaves us hollow, while being useless allows us to cultivate a soul that is unbreakable. The forest learned that a tree's primary job isn't to provide for the world, but to be a tree, to exist in its own magnificent, quiet truth. Sometimes, the greatest thing you can do for the world is to be the one who doesn't fall when the storm comes, the one who stays. Your presence is a gift that requires no justification. You are a sanctuary for yourself and others, simply by being your most authentic, quiet self. The art of being useless is actually the art of preserving your essence, keeping your light burning even when no one is there to watch. We are not machines designed for maximum output. We are biological wonders, creatures of spirit and thought who deserve to simply be, without any agenda. You do not need to be constantly busy to be valuable. You do not need to be constantly helpful to be worthy of your own existence. Practice the art of being useless to the outside world. Allow yourself the luxury of sitting still, of doing nothing, and of just being alive. When you stop being useful to everyone else's expectations, you finally become useful to your own soul, nurturing the peace that lives within you. Be like the ancient tree. Build your roots deep. Grow your branches wide. Don't worry about whether you are bearing fruit for others to harvest. Your value is internal. It is the strength of your character, the depth of your stillness, and the kindness you show to your own tired heart. In the silence of doing nothing, you find everything of who you are. You discover the version of yourself that doesn't need to perform. The world will always ask for more of your time, your energy, and your fruit, but you have the right to say no to being consumed. Your life is not a commodity. Your time is not a resource for others to exploit. Your existence is a sacred and unrepeatable event in time. Find the courage to be useless today. Let your roots settle into the earth and your spirit expand into the vast, open sky of your own life. Thank you for taking this journey into the forest with us. We hope you found a piece of that ancient, silent tree within your own heart. Never forget that you are precious simply because you are you. No achievement or utility can ever add to the inherent miracle of your being. Take a moment now to breathe, to rest, and to just be. You have done enough. You are enough. You are worthy of this peace. If this message brought you comfort, please share it with someone who might be struggling under the weight of expectations. Let's grow together in stillness. Take care of yourself before you try to take care of the world. Wishing you a day of deep rest and quiet. Beautiful presence. Goodbye.